Hi, g'day. Let's start with some stat weightings. These are just number values for how much I value each stat when comparing gear. The main thing to mention is that I'm valuing intellect quite a bit more than spell power. The reason for this is because Arcane is a lot more mana hungry than Frost or Fire. I'm also going to be avoiding plus arcane damage and plus heals entirely, as I think Arcane spec is best played as a hybrid doing a mixture of damage and healing. By focusing on intellect and normal spell power, it allows us to flex between DPS and healing according to what the encounter demands. So with that out of the way, let's begin with the Helm slot. The absolute best in slot is for Spell Power Goggles Extreme from Engineering. But the recipe for this is going to be very rare, and there is a decent chance your server just might not have one. It mostly drops off mobs way too high level for us, but it can also come from mithril bound trunks from fishing, and only one person on your server needs it. So maybe? If not, the next best option is Shadow Goggles. Again, this is from Engineering. If you don't have Engineering, there's really nothing worthwhile in the head slot, unfortunately. Moving along then to the Amulet slot. The best amulet we can get is a Spectral Necklace. Ideally, we want it with plus 6 intellect, but if you can't find plus 6 intellect, 2 MP5 or Int Stam or Int Spirit will do. For shoulders, our best in slot is the Magician's Mantle, which is a world drop BOE, or for an alternative, you could get the Feline Mantle off Wolfmaster Nandos in Shadowfang Keep, or you could look for a BOE green with 8 intellect on it. There's also quite a few nice quest rewards for the slot. Alliance can get the Mantle of Honor from the quest Bride of the Embalmer in Duskwood, and Horde can get Ghostly Mantle from the quest Deathstalkers in Shadowfang, which you pick up in the Sepulchre of Silverpine Forest, then complete in Shadowfang Keep. And both factions can get the Talabar Mantle from the quest In Nightmares, which starts from an item dropped by the last boss of Wailing Caverns. Next up, the back slot. Our options in this slot are rather lackluster. The best we can do is a BOE green with 6 intellect. There's not much for alternatives either. The Horde can get the Soft Willow Cape from Genu of the Earthen Ring, which is a quest that starts from the Befouled Water Globe that drops off Tidris in Ashenvale, but only if you're on the Stone Talon Standstill quest. You don't need to finish that quest, you just need to accept it for the item to start dropping. Or alternatively, either faction can get the Engineer's Cloak from the quest Garenzo Wrench Whistle in Stone Talon Mountains, but that one's pretty underwhelming. For the chest slot, we have a few nice options. The best of them is the Black Velvet Robes, a BOE world drop. There are also quite a few right behind in value, being the Necrology Robes, which is also a BOE world drop, the Robes of Aragul from Archmage Aragul in Shadowfang Keep, or even a plus 11 intellect green chest is decent. There's also a couple of quest rewards that are of interest to us. They're not nearly as good as the previous options, but Mana Weave Robe or Lesser Spellfire Robes from the level 15 Mage quest are solid enough, and they'll likely at least last you until level 25. Let's look at some wrists. Mind Thrush Braces is our best in slot. Since we're valuing Int very high and Stamina much lower, we don't mind too much sacrificing a bit of Stam for the extra intellect. This is a BOE world drop, but it's a fairly low level one, so hopefully there should be plenty floating around. Failing that, you could just go for a 6 int BOE green, or even there's the Fingerbone Braces, which are decent and can be farmed off the Forsaken Darkstalkers in Ashenvale, albeit only if you're Alliance. There's also a couple of quest rewards that we can go for, though to be honest, they're pretty bad. Alliance can get the Timberland Arm Guards from the Wanted Murk Deep quest in Darkshore, and Horde can get the Feather Bead Braces from Returning the Lost Satchel in Ragefire Chasm. In the weapon slot, the best weapon we can get is the PvP Reputation Reward, the Lawkeeper's Staff for the Alliance, or the Advisor's Gnarled Staff for the Horde. These ones require revered reputation with a Warsong Gulch, but since the new Ashenvale World PvP content is going to be awarding the reputation, it might not be too bad to get that. Also, I have pictured here the level 18 version, which is what we have so far, since we know that's going to be definitely in, but there has been a level 25 version of this item, Darkmind, recently, which has an extra stamina and intellect on it. So if that is going to be in the game, then that will obviously be even better. The alternative options are still pretty good though. If it's still in the game, You could go for the Rod of the Sleepwalker from Twilight Lord Calwis in Black Fathom Deeps. Now it might be buffed, or it might be completely swapped out with something else with the new rework of the BFD. We'll just have to see on that. Other good options are the Twisted Chanter Staff as a world drop BOE, or Emberstone Staff of Captain Greenskin in the Deadmines. To get you started, there's also a couple of good quest rewards. Alliance can get the Staff of Westfall from the Defiance Brotherhood quest in the Deadmines, and Horde players can get Crescent Staff from the Leaders of the Fang quest in the Wailing Caverns. As for the range slot, there's only really one wand that's helpful for us at all, and that's the Gravestone Scepter. It will hopefully continue to come from the quest Black Fathom Villainy, which is in Black Fathom Deeps. It's currently the only level 25 wand that has any stats on it at all. The only other wands that are really worth talking about are Cookie's Stirring Rod from Cookie in the Deadmines, since it does arcane damage, and therefore might have a little bit of healing temporal beacon stuff happening if you're really completely out of mana. The other relevant wand, again, still only just barely, is the Dancing Flame, which comes from the long and difficult quest Test of Faith, and only for Horde. And the only reason we care about that really at all is because it does have the highest DPS of any wand that's available at level 25. I don't think it's worth the effort doing that one though, because I just wouldn't be expecting there to be much wand work. For gloves, it's another kind of lame slot where the best option is just a BOE green with instant stam. Hopefully, I guess there'll be something new coming in the updated BFD. Other options in the slot are the Mage Fist gloves as another BOE, just a little bit worse, or the Alliance can get Shilly Mitts from the Nomagun quest Gyrodrillmatic Excavationators. Even if Noma is updated, I'd expect this to still be doable by the way, since you can complete this from the mobs outside. There's also a few more quest rewards that we could look at that are basically just as good. Zodiac gloves, again this is just for the Alliance, comes from the quest Look to the Stars in Duskwood, and the Horde can get Shredder operating gloves from the Lost Pages quest in Ashenvale. Next up, the Waist. Our best in slot is the Belt of Aragul from Archmage Aragul in Shadowfang Keep. The alternatives in the slot are very similar though, especially for Horde, who can get the Warsong Sash from the quest Warsong Supplies in Ashenvale. Alliance don't really have any good quest rewards, but the World Drop BOE Colours Girdle is decent, as is the Wizard's Belt, which is easily obtainable from vendors. In the Pants slot though, it's Alliance that have the advantage. The best in slot is the Nightwatch Pantaloons from the quest The Nightwatch, which is in Duskwood. Silver Thread Pants is very close though, as a BOE World Drop. For alternatives, you could look for a BOE green with instant stam on it, or Horde can get a Sacred Burial Trousers from the Battle of Hillsbrad chain and Hillsbrad Foothills. This is a bit of a tough chain to complete at level 25, so you probably would need a fair bit of help with it. For boots, we have a new epic. The Extra Planar Spider Silk boots are very, very good. They have a nice mix of stats, spell power, and the only spell hit that we can get from gear at 25. The on-use ability is nice too. You can either use it to control your threat, or as a defensive cooldown if there's some mechanic that hits particularly hard at a predictable time. It does, however, require you to go tailoring as one of your professions, so yeah, you'll probably want to do that. As an alternative, you can look for a BOE with instant stam on it, or tailors can craft the Spider Silk boots, which you're going to need anyway to make the Extra Planar Spider Silk boots. As for quest rewards, Alliance can get Wandering Boots from the Speaking of Fortitude quest chain that starts in Stormwind City, and Horde can get the Light Heal boots from the quest Protect Kanati Grey Cloud, which is in Thousand Needles. To get that quest, you'll first need to track down the Galak Messenger, and then he'll drop a note that starts the chain. Moving on to rings, the best ring you can get is the PvP Reputation ring. You get this from getting honoured with the Warsong Gulch faction, and this is going to be called either Lawkeeper's Ring if you're Alliance, or Advisor's Ring if you're Horde. For the other ring slot, you're looking for just anything with some decent int on it. You could go for a BOE green, you could go for a Snake Hoop from the quest Willix the Importer and Razorfang Cruel, though that might be a bit of a tough one to do at 25. Or the rare spawn Leech Widow in Wetlands can also drop the really quite decent Black Widow band, as long as you don't mind losing a little bit of stamina. There's also a few quest rewards to look at. The Alliance can get a Sealer Ring from the long quest chain that begins with Van Cleef's head from the Deadmines, and a Minor Channeling Ring from the quest Wanted Troc Soul, which is in Loch Modan. As for Horde, they can get a Skull Ring from Souvenirs of Death in Hillsbrad Foothills, or a Totemic Clan Ring from Revenge of Gan in the Barrens. I would note that the Souvenirs of Death is infamous for being a really long and tedious quest. You need 30 skulls and they're really poor drop rate, so you'll likely need to kill at least a couple of hundred mobs to complete this quest. If you do want to go for that, the way I'd recommend doing that is going Blizzard spec and just treat it as an AoE farming session. The mobs are pretty nice to AoE and they give decent drops for gold. So now let's close out with Trinkets. Unfortunately slim pickings here, but engineers can get a minor recombobulator which restores a bit of health and mana, and it'll do this even if there's no polymorph to dispel. And then Invoker's Void Pearl comes from the new BFD raid and it's quite nice. The only other relevant trinket is the Rune of Perfection, which you get from attaining friendly reputation with the Warsong Gulch faction.